Hello, everyone. Welcome to Consciousness Unfiltered. I am Dr. Anthony Mattis, and I am here with my amazing guest, Christopher Hughes. Chris Hughes is actually a world expert in antiques. He's an access consciousness facilitator, Right Voice for You facilitator. He actually oversees the whole Right Voice for You program. And it really is truly an honor to have him on this podcast. And so, Chris, I just found out, Julia just told me there was an amazing article written about you in the travel magazine in Australia about your expertise in the world of antiques. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm a little bit froggy this morning. It's here in Australia. It's just on 8 a.m. Sunday morning, and I'm just waking up. But yes, it was actually an interiors magazine. It was Vogue Living, and they did an article interviewing me about giving people tips and tools on how to shop for and buy antiques and know that you're getting something great and not being taken advantage of, and basically how to spot a fake.
Wow. How about that? And you also, it's not just the antiques, it's also in jewelry too, right? That includes jewels as well, right?
Absolutely, all of it.
That's awesome.
If there's a market for something beautiful and it's worth any money, someone along the way will fake it.
So, how many guilds do you oversee down there in Australia?
Well, we now have two shops in Brisbane, and then we have a new shop on the Sunshine Coast, which is about 2 hours north of Brisbane, in a beautiful, beautiful spot. And that shop's brand new. And because of this horrible pandemic that we're all suffering through, that shop became available, and we took it, and it's amazing.
Nice. So how would people be able to find you online as far as the antique stuff?
Well, the antique stuff, you can find us at theantiqueguild.com.
Okay.
Actually, theantiqueguild.com.au, sorry. And Antiques and Possibilities is the other store that we have on the Sunshine Coast, and that's antiquesandpossibilities.com.
Yeah. So this is really cool. I wasn't actually expecting to have this conversation with you because, I wanted to talk about the tools of access, which we'll get to in a second. But the interesting part, and what I've learned along the way, being an access conscious facilitators, a lot of times you'll be at the workshops and the seminars, and you'll display, especially the jewelry. And I remember being so uncomfortable because it just seemed so elegant and like beyond my league, if you will. And I remember I wouldn't even approach the table. And then I realized when I had a friend of mine, Liam Bramley, he's like, just come. He's like, come here. And he started putting the jewelry on my hands. And it started to facilitate me in a way. And it got me to actually look at where I was functioning from. It got me to look at how these antiques that go back, I guess, hundreds of years, if not more, the way they could actually facilitate a person and actually create change. Can you talk about that piece of how that
Absolutely.
does that? Yeah.
Well, look, beyond their age and the elements of how they were actually constructed, they are elements of the earth. The metals and the stones that were harvested from the earth. And like anything in the earth, they all contribute to our bodies.
Wow. True story.
We love to have them on and around us because they add something different.
Yeah.
And as you know, with all the stuff you do with bodies, and it's, if you're willing to add the elements to your body and allow them to contribute and receive them, they can all be a gift.
Truly. So there's a consciousness to these amazing handcrafted tools and stuff the jewelry and these antiques. I mean, it's crazy. I never thought in a million years that putting on jewelry or having certain furniture in your home, the space that I could actually create in my universe and how it could actually contribute to me, my body, and me, the being. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God. Wow.
Totally. And it's the funny thing too is, I mean, I grew up without necessarily a lot of money. And the change that it creates for you and what you can have financially and what you can create for yourself financially when you surround yourself with things
Yeah.
that are actually worth something, it's so different.
Yeah. Yeah. It took a lot of access classes for me to actually get to the point where I was willing to receive from these things. And what a gift it's been. Can you talk a little
Cool.
bit about like where you were before you started Access, and like kind of like what's sort of just give us like an arcing overview of where you were and where you are now? Because that's one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you and so many people to come, is because of just how much these tools, Gary Douglas, Dr. Dane here, how just the space that they create and their ability to see you, the whole being, and kind of bring that out with the tools. Can you just talk about where you were and where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. I was traveling. I was doing my gypsy of consciousness phase of life. So I was living overseas in Asia, and
Yeah.
I had a really easy life. I had all the things that you would think you'd want to be happy. I
Mm.
had a good job that was easy and it made good money. I had a very handsome boyfriend. I had a great apartment. I traveled whenever I wanted to.
Yeah.
I had all that, but I was so unhappy.
Mm.
It was because, I mean, as all of us know, it's not about the things that you have in your life that create happiness,
Right.
which is kind of ironic because we've just been talking about the antique guild and what the jewelry and everything adds, but that's not the be all and end all. And those things contribute when you're willing to receive them. But I know a lot of people with money who aren't really willing to have the things in their life contribute to them.
Yeah. So what was that? I mean, so on paper, everything from the like an outsider looking in, they were like, wow, this guy's got it all. You know, he's happy. He's got the boyfriend's got the relationship. He's successful. But what would you say was sort of that, what was that missing link for you, that where the inside can match the outside, so to speak?
Yeah. Nothing in my life was actually about me.
Mm.
And I was unhappy because there was this itch that I couldn't quite reach and couldn't quite scratch.
Mm.
And none of my life was being lived from joy. It was all being lived from, oh, this is what I think I'm supposed to do and supposed to have to be happy.
Okay. So when Access came along, sort of like how did you even find out about it? What made you say, you know what, there's something to this stuff?
Well, the funny thing is, and I think it's really interesting, is when it first came along, I wanted nothing to do with it.
Okay, say more.
Well, how many people have come along in your life, or how many things that at first you were like, no,
Yeah.
like you were talking about with the jewelry?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
When it first comes along, you go, nah, not for me, not
Yeah.
interested, don't want it. And there was a facilitator who came to town, who was actually from Australia, which is ironically, I'm now a permanent resident of Australia. This is home for me. And they needed a place to do the class that she was having, which at the time was Foundation. And at that time, Foundation and Access bars were all part of the same class. And they said to me, oh, your house is the biggest. Can we please do it at your house? And I said, sure,
Uh-huh.
why not? And I started listening as the lady started facilitating because I wasn't going to do it. And I went, what is this? And what is she talking about?
Mm.
I want to be involved in this.
Wow.
So I said, hey, I want to take the class. And they said, okay, well, it costs this much money. And I said, you're in my house and you want me to pay?
Nice.
But the day before, I'd bought a little Louis Vuitton journal,
Uh-huh.
like a day timer,
Yeah.
before the advent of Google Calendars. And it was the same price as the class. So I looked at it and I went, okay, fine. So I took it back to the store, got my money back, and took the damn class, and I was pissed.
That's awesome.
But as soon as the lady started reading from the manual, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know. It wasn't about the words, and I wasn't like even cognitively following the sentences
Yeah.
and making sense of it. but there was an energy where I was just like, woof. And my body felt so different immediately. I had the chills and I felt like I was dizzy and I felt a little nauseous when she read the clearings, but it was like whoosh. After taking that foundation, I remember lying on the sofa when everyone left my apartment. And I was like, I feel fundamentally different.
Yeah. Wow.
And then I went through this huge phase of taking out the trash, as you will, of all the things in my life that I was like, you know what? I actually don't enjoy this.
Yeah.
Like I did things like I said to my boyfriend, you know what? I don't really want to pay your rent anymore.
Yeah.
And he picked up the television and he threw it at me. And I went, oh, so you're pretty, but you're not actually nice.
Yeah.
Bye.
Wow. Wow. So you started to become more aware, basically, and started choosing for you. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. What we're willing to actually live with and not even know that we're living with that until sort of like that veil starts to dissipate or get lifted.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So consciousness found you. You weren't even looking for it.
Well, come on. We're always looking, whether we think we are or not. You know, the things that occur in our life don't happen to us and don't fall on our lap.
Right.
There's a question that we're being and a choice that we've made that allow that to come into our life.
Awesome. What would you say, like from that period to like right now, like what tools did you use to sort of like to have more of you start to sort of come out? Because one thing that when I watch you, I see this level of elegance and confidence in which you speak from, a space of joy, humor, and it's just simply you being you, right? No pun intended. I know there's a book that's been created by our friend Dr. Dane here, Being You, Changing the World, and but that's something that when I look at you, I'm like, wow, this fucking guy has a great time just being himself, and there's no reservations about it. But what were the tools that you used, sort of along the way?
Probably the biggest one for me constantly is allowance. And for those who are listening to that and thinking, do you mean the money that your parents give you? No. Allowance is having no point of view about you and looking at the things that you actually want to choose in your life. And instead of trying to make them right or wrong, just being willing to have them without a point of view.
Yeah. Awesome.
When you're being an allowance, everything is interesting.
Yeah.
Nothing is right, nothing is wrong. And when you're truly being allowance as well, you really open the doors to receiving so much more, because you invite a level of vulnerability where everything can come in and you don't have to protect yourself from it.
Right. Awesome. What would you say was the one of the gifts that Gary Douglas is, I watch him do it with everyone really, and when he facilitates, he like, where sometimes when we go and ask him a question, right, we do it from this place or this space where like it's from like a part of ourselves, but when he facilitates and speaks, he speaks to like our whole being, right, where we can only see like maybe this part. Can you maybe share a story of like when like you felt like he was like penetrating your whole entire being and he was kind of facilitating just for you to be more of you?
Well, I like the idea of penetrating. That sounds great.
There we go. That's what we're talking.
So one of the biggest like lights on moments for me was I was at a 7-day event that we had in New Zealand years ago now. And the thing that always frustrated me and that I always struggled with was I was always incredibly aware of everybody, all of their insanity, all of their pain, all of the issues going on for them, everything they were thinking and feeling. It was like really present in my world, like full on. But I never really felt like I was there. Like there was always this super intense feeling of separation.
Yeah.
And I remember reading the autobiography of Andy Warhol, the artist. And he said, I've been everywhere and I've seen everything and I was a part of none of it.
Wow.
And I was like, yep. So I went, all right, I'm going to ask a question. I want to change this. And I said in the class, I said, okay, Gary, can you help me? This is what I want to change. I would like to invite everyone to be a part of my world. And he said, no, you don't.
Hmm.
And I said, yes, I do. And he said, no, that's not the issue. You receive everyone. That's not a problem. He said, what you have to be willing to change is actually allow you to be a part of their world.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh. So what I thought was a problem actually wasn't. And he just totally read what was real and didn't listen to what came out of my mouth,
Right.
but went, no, actually.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. And that's the gift he's been to, gosh, hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. And then us as facilitators, we would like to be that gift to other people as well, using the tools. You know, you've been the overseer of the Right Voice for You program, which is one of the many different, I guess, resources available on Access Consciousness. And I love that class. It's one of my favorite classes that I've had in Access, because it's not about being a singer or anything. God knows I can't sing, but it's about having your voice in the world, and the changing the point of view of just, I guess, you as a person. I mean, I've had a lot of different insecurities with regards to public speaking. It was always very difficult for me. But there was something that you changed in that class for me. You got me to, and it was all energetic. It wasn't even cognitive, because I've done a lot of, I did Toastmasters, you know, I did speaking circles. I did all those different things to work on your public speaking skills, but didn't really change until I took that Right Voice for You class. Can you say more about what that class is, but really like what you would like to see that work specifically be and do in the world?
Sure. My target with it is not to improve what anyone does. It's not about learning to do better
Mm,
or gaining the confidence that will give you a technique to speak better
mm.
and thereby have other people validate you with their opinion of you.
There you go. So say more, say more.
It's about inviting people to just show up as them and to take off their mask
Mm.
and show up even as they are.
Regardless of who
See,
follows, right?
yeah, I mean, a lot of modalities like Access Consciousness or whatever people are out there looking for.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I see for a lot of people is they're trying to fix a problem
Mm.
when if instead they didn't see it as a problem but came to allowance of who they are as they are, then change is actually possible.
Yeah.
Because in trying to fix the problem, there's usually so much resistance built into what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
that they're doing it from judgment,
Yeah.
not from allowing themselves to just be.
Yeah.
So, and the funny thing is historically, Right Voice for You has been seen as a class about the voice and learning to speak
Yeah.
and learning to sing. But, and I said to Gary when I started doing this class, I said, oh, do you want me to do this because I can sing? And he said, no, dude, I want you to do this because you have a desire for people to see themselves.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And that's what I'd like it to be.
Awesome.
Because when you let go of your point of view, you don't mind who's watching.
Mm-hmm. True story. True story. That was one of the common questions Gary kept asking me all the time is, when are you going to be you? When are you going to be you? Stop trying to be normal. Stop trying to be average and real like everyone else. When are you going to be you? But it was after that class I took with you when he said that to me. And then it was like somehow I needed permission, right? Which is ridiculous. And then all of a sudden it became easier for me, and especially when I facilitate classes. It's just like I have a grand old time. You know, it's like, and when I first got to Access, I was so fucking serious, and I can still be intense if I let myself, but I just have a blast now. You know what I mean? I have like Tourette's. I just say whatever I'm going to say. And that's why we called this podcast Consciousness Unfiltered, because I really want it to be unfiltered and raw and authentic and have this level of vulnerability to invite people to, like you said, just for them to be okay with them being them.
I gotta write that. I gotta write that down because I want to use that filtered part. I think that could be really cool with Right Voice and using
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because people do that. They filter what they're going to say because most often we try to elicit a response out of people or premeditate how they're going to receive us based on what we say. It's all
Mm,
calculated on how
yeah.
they're going to react, not what do you really have to say if you weren't vested in the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I've come to learn is like when I'm being me, it doesn't matter who's judging me. It's like I could receive the judgment, I could receive, it doesn't matter what's coming at me. It's just I'm being me and having a grand old time creating away, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you say, like if you've done anything with Gary Douglas, he has no filter.
I
And
know.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember watching or listening to a radio show with him once, and these two ladies were interviewing him, and they were talking and talking and talking and talking. And then they said, "And what do you think, Gary?" And he'd fallen asleep, and he had no point of view about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, most people would judge themselves and make themselves wrong, and he was just like, I wasn't really that interested in what they were talking about, and not enough.
Yeah. That's great. He really doesn't have a point of view about anything. Oh
No,
my goodness. So let's go back to the guild. And I asked you like what you'd like to see with Right Voice in the world. What would you like to see with the guild and the jewelry and
great
the
question.
antiques and how they can contribute to the world?
Probably my overarching target in life with everything is that I would like to have intimacy be real for people.
Mm,
And for those of you who've never done out there listening, who've never done a foundation class with Access Consciousness, we have these things called the 5 elements of intimacy, which are vulnerability, allowance, gratitude, honor, and trust. And if you start to have all those things with you, there's a sense of communion and peace in your world that starts to come up. And I would like people to have that with everyone and everything.
mm,
And when I surround myself with beauty and with the amazing treasures that come into my life, that sense of peace and communion just becomes more and more real and more possible. And that's what I would like for everybody. It doesn't have to look the way it does for me because,
mm,
yeah, I love antiques, I love art, I love jewelry, I love clothes. There's lots of things that I collect. I'm a bowerbird, the
mm.
little birds that fly around and take shiny things to build their nest.
Yeah.
That's me.
Nice.
Um, and what I'd love people to get from that is whether you buy things from antique stores or from our antique store or not, make it work for you.
Hmm.
What could you furnish your life with
Mm,
that would actually give you more of you?
mm. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
It's like you facilitate with bodies. What element or what could you add to and dress your body with that
Yeah.
it would love?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the more access I've done, it's like the more sensitive I become to those types of things, like what I wear, all the way down from my socks to my underwear. And it's like it has to contribute to my body in one way or another. Even like the kind of cups I drink coffee from, or the
Mm,
kind of, glasses of wine. It's like I've become more of a princess, than ever before. You know what I mean? But it's like, but these things do contribute to you. They have this certain level, they have consciousness to them, but they're different. And there is this gifting and receiving that occurs with these inanimate objects, as people would call them, but they're not, because they're like, you could feel the aliveness in them. You know what I mean? It's fucking awesome.
yeah.
It's awesome.
Every molecule on the planet has consciousness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it all goes together, and it's really cool to see but it took me a while. It took me 2 years to even approach the tables full of jewels. 2 years. And
Yeah.
then someone had to drag me the second year. And then
Yeah.
they would like put the ring on me and I would like take it off right away because it would like, you can feel it facilitate your whole body. My whole body would like start to shake and quiver. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I would like put it back on. I'm like, wait a minute. This is not what I thought it was going to be. It was a completely different experience than going to the mall and trying on jewelry or something like that. It was something that's really not really describable in words, but it truly was a contribution and probably one of my greatest forms of facilitation that I've ever received was from trying on rings. It's
Amazing, right?
crazy, man. It's
I
crazy.
mean, I had that even occur yesterday because there was a ring that I saw that I was like, ooh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And when it arrived here in Australia, I tried it on and I went, my body doesn't like it. My body said, no, it's not for you.
Yeah.
And there's a willingness to be aware and have consciousness and look at that too. What actually does not work for your body that you think should?
Yeah. Yeah. Even the quote unquote healthy things in life, right?
Yeah, totally. Hmm.
Awesome. That's great awareness. This is brilliant. This is a beautiful conversation. And how can people find you as a access consciousness facilitator? Where's your website and all that for that?
Yeah, well, my website is mrchristopherhughes.com. So you
Okay.
can find me there. And I've got, if you go to the shop page on my website, I've got lots of free things you can download, including some intros about Right Voice for You, etc. And classes that I've taught on antiques, if you want to learn more about that. But also Mr. Christopher, or sorry, if you go to accessconsciousness.com/Christopher Hughes, I have a profile on the Access Consciousness page there, and you'll see things coming up, including like, I think maybe 4 or 5 days here, I've got a foundation class coming up that people
Nice.
can attend online. So,
Cool. Any right voice classes coming up soon or?
well, I just finished one a couple
Mhm.
weeks ago, and I just did another one 3 days ago that I co-facilitated with Gary Douglas, and there will be one next month.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christopher, for joining me. I always learn so much from you, and I'm glad that you're in my life. And it's just awesome to see all the amazing things you're doing out in the world. So thanks, and it's been an honor for you being on this show. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor for me too, and it's a joy to have you and your beautiful family in my life as well.
Thanks, man. All right. You take
Thank
care.
you.
See ya.
You too.